Welcome back, guys. It's all the final details right now. We're gonna get the gas tank put on, the mirrors, we're gonna do all the wiring, get the rear seat pan sorted out, and get the pan powder coated and the seat installed. And we're gonna get fluids in it, and well, we're hopefully gonna get this thing running too. So let's just jump right into it. Okay, few things for soldering. You want to make sure that you twist the wires nicely and evenly and that they're all flat, because when you run your heat shrink over, if it's not smooth or flat, the heat shrink's going to get stuck on the solder and then it's just not going to work. So the first step for that is to make sure your heat shrink's far enough away from where you're soldering. And I have one of these like alligator clip holders that allows me to be able to hold each end of the wire to get a nice clean solder. Also always cover my stuff up, because the heat splatter of the solder will melt paint, it will burn through rubber, whatever it is, so you don't want to damage anything. Okay, so the point of soldering, you have your flux, and you're just going to put some of your flux on here evenly. Here's your solder, and then your soldering iron. The point of the soldering iron and the solder is, it's called a capillary reaction. It's where the solder is drawn to the heat of the flux. So if you've ever tried to solder without flux, you'll see that it just builds up and it won't melt. So the idea behind it is you're going to heat the bottom like so evenly, and you're just going to let that copper wire get heated first, and then you're just going to test it with the solder and move the iron slowly. And you don't want to put too much on, just enough, like that, so it's a nice even bead. And if you see the even amount there, it's all blended. You can see it's fully wrapped around the copper, and I've had my heat shrink far enough away, so once that cools, this, I'll show you here, this heat shrink will just slide right over like this, like that. And then you're just going to grab a lighter and heat it up a little bit like so. That is one solid connection. I got all the sleeving done, all nice and tucked up there underneath the bar. So all the wires are all hidden now in the bar coming out, and the gas tank's gonna cover most of this. And then I was able to reuse all the connections, so we're gonna be able to like disconnect the original stock harness. It will still match the wiring diagram, so this will be your headlight. These are your signals, Everything's plug and play now. I got the headlight going, high beam, all the neutral, all of this is working, so I know it's good. Even I wired all of the lights back here, ran them all nice with heat shrink all the way up to underside the seat, and I've clicked in the harness, wired them accordingly. So I'm gonna keep going and get this gas tank on, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I'd like to say this is the last episode, but unfortunately it's not. So I ran into a little bit of an issue while I was bleeding the brakes. When I removed the fluids, it was brown, so it looked like it had already had .4 running in it. I didn't even look, I didn't pay attention, and I put .4 in it. It takes .5, and for those of you who have maybe made this mistake before, .5 is synthetic. It's actually a big deal if you put the wrong fluid in the bike. So by the time I drained all the fluids out and thought it was maybe the pistons from powder coating the calipers, it wasn't. The master cylinders were all gummed up, so I've had to rip the entire master cylinders and the entire brake system apart. Removed the rear brake caliper with all of the pistons, and I'm going to be rebuilding the entire brake system, so you guys are going to get a bonus episode with removing and reinstalling all the brakes. With that being said, the bike is complete minus the brakes, so the only thing remaining is to put the one bolt on the rear seat, but you can see it's completed now. The wiring has to be completed for the rear brake, but I need to do the rear brake assembly. Other than that, it's running, fires up. I've driven it up and down the driveway with no brakes, so I've only been in first gear. But the next episode, we'll finish off the brakes. We'll do all of the startup and going for a little rip on the bike, and then we can get Terrence the reveal, so he's going to be able to see the creation that I've made for him. So tune in for the last episode, and if you guys haven't already followed, I got a new chopper build on the way. It's already been started, so make sure you guys subscribe to that, and thanks for tuning in.